Hi everyone, my name is Shiminder Singh, and today I'm going to talk about my presentation, which is about understanding intersexuality through classicism. Firstly, what is classicism? Classicism is explored as an element of another form of oppression. In chapter 10 of its Everyone Really Equal, Oslam and Sensei Robin DiGianlo explained how the economic power structures dictate the privilege and disadvantages. We will talk about class-based discrimination, myths about their social mobility, and the institutions that reinforce classism, such as education, employment, and healthcare. Intersectionality allows that classism shows its connection to racism, sexism, and ableism. The aim is to explore the ways to oppose the class-based inequality through policy reform and advocacy. Before even reading through the chapter, let's start emphasizing some key themes of. Now I'm going to talk about the introduction. The problem of classicism is deeply embedded in society and it determines the amount of access a person has to resources, social status, and power. The focus of this chapter is on how class privilege works as well as its interconnections with other identities. Tolle social economic examines power, social capital, and the barriers against people of low income and are able to get into upward mobility. That is not to say classism is not about personal biases, but rather it is about looking at institutional discrimination. But we will also take on top common myths concerning social mobility, how classicism governs each ordinary day, and the government's function within the division among the economic classes. The first step to all advocating for systematic change is to recognize one's own class privilege. So now we're gonna talk more about classicism. Discrimination based on economic or social class privileging the wealthy and other people who have higher economic and social status and marginalizing those who have a lower economic and social class are types of classism. The multiple levels of extents of this include individual, cultural, and systematic institutions such as education, healthcare, and employment reinforce class disparities. For instance, richer communities are able to fund schools better than poor communities who have no resources in terms of school. Cultural norms also force the reinforcement of class hierarchies via a separation of wealth from hard work and lack of wealth from personal failure. Classism is taking note that the real people might be more economically successful isn't necessarily due to a lack of willpower or their part, but a result of their bias towards economic benefits, which are part of someone's identity as a result of being in that structure. Economic power and class structures. The second point that economic systems decide who can make decisions. In contrast, the other aspects of capitalism and socialism on wealth distribution process are different. While socialism emphasizes on redistribution, capitalism gives top priority to profit and individuals' capital. In capitalist societies, the top layers become even richer, and the income equality also goes up. Class mobility is also affected by social capital, who you know. Those who are born into wealth typically inherit money, but the networks and opportunities to keep them are at the top. These class structures give privilege and keep it hard for lower earnings individuals to relocate upward. Understanding intersectionality. Invented by Kimberly Crenshaw, this term of intersectionality refers to a combination of numerous forms of oppression. Classicism is not a solitary phenomenon. Instead, it intersects with other kinds of discrimination such as racism, sexism, ableism, and so on. For instance, a low-income black woman has hurdles to overcome which are not the same as that of a low-income white man. People who are classed differently due to race, gender, disability, etc., are are affected in different ways. As a result, these intersections are ignored and their answers are incomplete. The class inequality to be addressed calls for a better practice to determine the various identities that experience oppression in conjunction with one another rather than in isolation. A class privilege. Resources such as education, healthcare, and employment opportunities are not equally available to those belonging to class privilege. Access is not equivalent to wealth. All that matters isn't the money. It's about access. People who are rich already inherit advantages such as better school, financial security net, powerful networks. Generational wealth allows privilege to be passed on down through many generations. However, people in lower income brackets face much more barriers to good health, education, and financial stability, making it hassle-free for them to climb up. People who have class privilege often overlook their class privilege due to the thought that we all have the same opportunities, when actually economic inequality systematically disadvantages people from every race and class.
Hi everyone, my name is Sumit and today I'm going to talk about the myths about class mobility. The first myth is unfortunately the so-called American dream that implies that if you work hard enough, you can succeed. Of course, the oversight is that there are systematic barriers that hinder people from climbing the economic ladder. Educational disparities, job discrimination, and generation poverty limit upward mobility. The thought that hard work alone results in success overlooks factors of race, disability, and of course the lack of social capital, all of which play a role in economic outcomes, as in access to higher education and stable employment. Lower earned incomes are structurally barred from progress. Addressing these systematic inequalities in order to contest classism is more necessary than blaming poor people for their financial troubles. And the next one is dominant classist narratives. So society has naturally promoted that narratives that make sense to uphold class inequalities. It is the belief that everything depends only on talent and effort. As a result, we neglect the consideration of the existence of systematic advantages. This reinforces anyone can if I did it. The bootstrap mentality. Structural inequality has no existence, and the presence of marginalized people in their lives is downplayed. In fact, in reality, many times success is linked to privilege, access to quality education, stability of financial and social connections. To hold these narratives at bay, it is important first to acknowledge that while personal effort is important, greater importance is given by systematic factors to economic success. And next one is the impact of classism on education. With the right education, many believe the key to moving up in social hierarchy exists. However, as is classism, the opportunities are unequal. Richer areas school have superior funding and skilled teachers, and fewer resources than needy schools are besieged by overflowing and underfunding. However, poorly educated students cannot afford tutoring or test preparation, and standardized testing is biased against them. People who aim to go beyond high school education are also affected. College tuition costs and student debt are barriers for low-income students. Education perpetuates classist structures which leave wealthy students benefiting from class advantage above and beyond the poorest students who are confronted with systems that make it more difficult to attain higher education and advance their career. And the next one is workplace discrimination and wage gaps. Job security, wages, and career growth are subjected to economic class. Healthy jobs are more common among higher income people and absence of such jobs. Low income people work in low wage insecure jobs. This leaves title room for the low income students. Class also dictates networking opportunities as wealthy people usually attend events and have family elite membership that get them job. Uh, Gaps in wages remain within the class lines, and workers in lower paying jobs are unable to make ends meet. Workplace classism can be addressed by calling for fair wages, paid internship, and equal opportunities for jobs. And the next one is classism and health disparities. Mm, Health outcomes are classed. Low income people have less access to quality health care and higher rates of illness. Presentative care, insurance, or medications are out of so many people's reaches that they don't get their health conditions treated. The cause of food insecurity are well known. They affect poor communities, those who don't have enough money to afford nutritious food, where nutritious food is expensive and Fast food is more affordable. Environmental racism also plays a part in low income communities. In particular, communities of color are exposed to the negatives such as pollution, poor air quality, and unsafe water. There is another stigma wrapped up in the mental health stigma, that is class. Therapy and treatment are also things that can be pricey, considered rather in the luxury than realism. This is essential to healthcare equity, economic justice. The next one is wealth versus income. Wealth, income, or income differentiates from each other. Wages or salaries received from jobs are much as are called income, and assets like property, investments, and inheritance are much as are called wealth. Generational wealth line will aid the wealthy is accumulating the wealth which makes the future generation lives better than ever they did. Income inequalities do not fully tell the tale of how the wealth divides along the class lines. For instance, someone of high income but without savings remain financially unstable, whereas a person with big fortune can be financially secure even if they don't have a job. Income gaps simply don't do the work of classism. It's much easier to stay in classism when wealth accumulates than for people in lower incomes to build long-term wealth. And the next one is social capital and networking. Who you know matters among all of these: access to education, job opportunities, the social capital, or the networks and relationships people have determines social capital or access to education, job opportunities. People with higher wealth have a stronger network, attending with elite schools that bond with big members of people. Many high-paying jobs, no one advertise, are filled through referrals and acquaintances. Without exclusive networks, lower income people don't have an equal opportunity for career placement. But if networks are good, the privileged, uh, then social mobility is pretty much limited. First, if mentorship programs are going to break this cycle, they have to be more than what is done presently. Secondly, there must be more networking, and hiring should be for merit, not
Hello everyone, my name is Akash Deep Singh and I'm gonna continue from consumer culture and class. So as we know nowadays marketing is more popular to our upper class lifestyle. The stigma of second-handed goods and discount shopping stuff. Advertising equates to classist ideas of a successful life, which mostly means like people nowadays show success by owning expensive things, which make class division even stronger. Luxury brands are seen like as a status symbol, while low-income people are judged for using a thrift store or getting help from government. While consumerism pressures people into unnecessary spending, like it influences normal people to spend more money on unnecessary products which they don't need in their everyday life. And so next is racial wealth gap, which means background of redlining and discriminatory lending. The second is unequal access to home ownership among racial minorities. Third one is higher generational wealth goes with Black and Latino families. Uh, that basically means like the racial wealth gap exists because of past and present discrimination in housing, jobs, and banking. Many laws help some people build wealth while making it harder for minorities. And the next one is addressing classism in policy. The rising of minimum wage and labor laws, expanding access to affordable housing and healthcare, policies of government can help reducing wealth gaps, which basically means like um, classism is built into society, so fair policies are needed to fix it, I guess. Higher wages, free healthcare, and affordable housing help reduce economic struggles. Supporting worker rights and fair laws is key to fighting class inequality. So next is media representation of class. Um, Movies and TVs are stereotyped, which shows poor people are lazy as compared to rich, and rich people are more deserving for almost everything. Lack of working class representation in leadership role. In fact, media also promote false statement about poverty and success, like this create unfair beliefs about poverty and success, as the media should tell like real stories that show people from all backgrounds are serving and doing it like fairly. And action steps for social justice. So we should try to acknowledge personal class privilege when applicable, like supporting against unions and in favor of worker rights movements, ensure an economic justice, talk back to classist stereotypes in everyday conversation, like we should recognize privilege that it is important, but taking action matters more. Supporting fair wages, better taxes, and affordable housing helps create economic fairness. Everyone can fight classism by voting, supporting, and fair policies, and by speaking out. So here are key takeaways. We can say that classism is a systematic problem, not just about like working hard. It connects with race, gender, and history, which makes like success harder for some people. We can say that systematic and personal change is always required to challenge classism. Like to create fairness, we need better policies and more awareness of class issues. So let's move to the discussion questions. The first question is, what does classism mean to you? Can you think of examples of classism in everyday life? The second question is, how do you think class affects opportunities like education and jobs? What are some ways that society can reduce class differences? So in last, here are some references for the sources that we used for our presentation. And thank you everyone for listening to us and for your time. Thank you so much.